We understand the concept of space in many different ways.
I'm not talking about the otherworldly, boundless, great unknown beyond our atmosphere.
I mean the space between you and me. The space propped up by your wheels, so the bottom of your car doesn't scrape against the road as you drive. The space that makes your personal bubble and mine. And sometimes that space is just a little too small for your liking. Sometimes you feel like you don't have enough space to stretch your legs. I see you, economy class. Actually, the airplane is a great place to begin expanding our idea of space. When you are in a cramped seat making that long journey from the US to Korea for hours upon hours, the frustration can grow. All you want to do is to stand and stretch, and physically being unable to can also be mentally cramping. Your body wants to sprawl out freely, and so correspondingly does your mind. The connection between the physical and mental, the emotional, spiritual, and tangible things that make up our human experience is undeniable. And what infringes on my physical space can also encroach on my mental space as well. Now, on this understanding of space, I introduce the Korean word yeoyoo. It is heard all the time. It's such a commonly used word, you could find a way to use it in every single conversation you have. It can mean all of these things. To be relaxed, to have freedom to do something, to have the space to do something, to be freed up, to be able to afford something, to have margin or space to spare. And in the negative sense, to be unable to afford to lack the freedom, to have no breathing room, to be tied up, to be hard-pressed. Things that make sense both physically and mentally. If you haven't experienced what it means to have no yeoyoo in the physical sense, you might have difficulty understanding yeoyoo in the mental sense. Here in Seoul, houses are stacked on one another. We live in tight spaces. We cram ourselves into subway cars and squash ourselves in to make that final train no matter what, because the consequences of missing it could be unbearable. We bump into each other on the street because we don't have the space to step aside. We are always aware of everyone else. Our personal space does not exist. I cannot push you away from me. Physically, we live without this yeoyoo. This leads to no yeoyoo in our mental and emotional lives as well. How many times have I seen a Korean elder snap angrily over the smallest thing? And how many times have I judged them? But in Korea, I feel this lack of yeoyoo on the regular basis. And when you are squeezed in too tightly, you begin to believe there's no escape. There's no breathing room. That makes you stressed, that makes you angry. Just give me my goddamn space. The competition to survive is incredibly crushing. I see it in the tests, the required degrees, the expectations to prove your worthiness by slaving away long hours at the whims of those above you. I see it in the older men who drink together late at night, their self-destructive escape from the pressures of work and family. I see it in the students who don't know what it means to have a dream because they have no time to think outside of their studying. Their minds are granted no time to think beyond what is placed directly in front of them. Nobody else is going to give you any space. There's just no yeoyoo for that. There has been no margin for error in Korea's history. To survive and to maintain Korean culture the way this country has required incredible sacrifice, from the overall societal duties down to the individual man. I often wonder if this Korean temper is not so much an innate thing in our blood, but the fallout from hundreds of years of desperately clutching to all that we have. And when we feel like somebody is trying to take that too, we lash out. There is a heavy toll paid when a society must eke out a living. Being physically wedged in among a great mass of people forces you to move, whichever way they move. So it feels when mentally you have no yeoyoo. You will go where the masses tell you. Thus, Korea's somewhat lack of entrepreneurs, creative thinkers, artists, filmmakers. Oh, they exist, but it isn't without great struggle and mental power. We are not fighting just a physical deficiency of yeoyoo, but also missing some cultural yeoyoo as well.
Do you know how good it feels to put your arms out and just have room to breathe?
Woo! What a blessing it is to mentally have the space to wonder why somebody treated me the way they did. To have yeoyoo to consider someone else besides myself. To be able to take a step back from a situation and ask, do I really want to do this? To know you have a cushion if you should make a mistake. Having yeoyoo in our lives is a gift. How'd you know? It's the humble, intangible force that allows us to choose what we want to choose and think what we want to think. It's something you may not recognize until you've lived a life without it. And if you do have it, I hope you will grant some yeoyoo to those around you. Give them space, even in just your own interactions. Take a step back when they cannot. Allow them to breathe, to stretch their limbs, their minds, their possibilities. This space between us is a powerful thing.